Tonight, autumn alarm. What's being done to curb SA's sharp rise in flu cases? A heavy police presence to keep angry protesters apart on North Terrace. SA's crash course in head knocks as the AFL's fight to stamp out big hits intensifies. The new SA research linking kids' screen time with sleep struggles, what parents need to know. And the Crows forward forced to take a step back ahead of the start of the footy season.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Mike Smithson.
Good evening. Doctors are urging South Australians to get vaccinated against the flu as soon as possible amid an alarming spike in early infections. Jasmine Turlings joins us live. Jazz, cases are up more than double this time last year.
Mike, it's a worrying trend considering we're still months away from the traditional flu season, which could add further strain to our already stretched health system. In fact, it's the highest spike in infections we've seen this early in 5 years. In the first 2 months, we've recorded close to 1,000 cases. That's more than double the same time last year. Now, the SA president of the AMA is urging people not to delay getting their vaccinations.
It's certainly not at the levels yet that we see during winter, so I guess we expect them to definitely go up. And considering the number of cases around, I think as soon as is practical, people should get it.
We're expecting quite a busy flu vaccination season.
Now, many chemists already have stockpiles ready to go with appointments available from mid-March. As for vulnerable South Australians, including children under 5 and adults over 65, they'll again be eligible for a free flu vaccine. But those jabs won't likely be available until next month. And Mike, pharmacists say it usually takes around 3 to 4 months for the vaccine to provide you the best protection against the flu.
Thanks for that, Jazz. Police are hunting for a gunman who held up a Liquorland on Anzac Highway at Carolta Park this afternoon. They say he threatened staff with a firearm around 2:45 and took off on foot with cash and alcohol. The dog squad and police helicopter have been called in to help with the search. There have been heated scenes on North Terrace at what was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday rally at Parliament House. Dozens of police were on hand to make sure tensions didn't boil over.
They were fired up. Pro-Palestinians disrupting what was meant to be a peaceful rally at Parliament House. Members of Adelaide's Christian community joining forces with members of the Jewish community to protest against a rise in anti-Semitism.
It's been a pretty intense experience, being here standing for tolerance and cohesion and having constant chants of hatred in the background.
A strong police presence on foot and horseback, shutting down parts of North Terrace and setting up barriers to stop any violence.
They want the death of all these Jewish people who are standing here today. That's what they want, our death.
SA Senator Simon Birmingham has been among the speakers here. These pro-Palestinian supporters accusing him of supporting genocide.
Simon, you can't hide! You're supporting genocide!
The hatred that is being thrown at us from all quarters, and it is destructive, it is unnecessary.
Mitchell Sariovsky, 7 News.
The most dangerous part of Main South Road is in line for a major safety upgrade. After years of lobbying by locals, plans have been unveiled for the next stage of the duplication from Aldinga to Sellex Beach.
21 years ago, Fred Shield was hit head-on Main South Road, and since then he's not only learned to walk, talk and count again, he's been campaigning to make it safer.
It was one of the most dangerous roads in South Australia, and there are still accidents there quite often.
In 10 years, it saw 182 crashes, 2 of them fatal, earning it RAA's most perilous road. But it was the death of a local concreter, Warwick Hervenen, that led to the creation of an action group desperate for change.
That's what actually started this. There was absolute outrage from the community about the state of the road.
Today, some 8 years later, progress as the government unveils plans to duplicate the notorious road linking Aldinga to Selleck's Beach.
There's 17,000 cars a day that use this road, and it's important that we make it safe.
It's going to make a huge difference in terms of safety and in terms of efficiencies in getting people to and from work in the local area, but also the hundreds of thousands of visitors that we have.
The duplication's expected to create the equivalent of more than 400 full-time jobs per year between now and 2026, when it's due to be finished. It'll link to an already upgraded Stage 1 between Seaford and Aldinga, which residents say is proving to be much safer.
Over the Christmas period this year, it had very few car accidents and the traffic flow was a lot better than it ever had been.
No doubt saving countless lives too. Kimberly Pratt, 7 News.
A 73-year-old Alice Springs man has died after a motorbike tour in the Flinders Ranges turned to tragedy. The man was travelling with a group when his Triumph struck a kangaroo and a tree 40 kilometres from Hawker around 9:30 this morning. The Flinders Ranges Way was closed for most of the day while police investigated. 16 people have lost their lives on South Australian roads this year. 4 of them are motorcyclists. The AFL's top concussion experts have given a crash course in treating head knocks as the fight to stamp out big hits intensifies. Country leagues could be the next battleground, with a lack of doctors adding to the challenge.
A shuddering sight which reared its ugly head again last week.
King cleaned up by Power Pepper.
Now those at Concussion's coalface are brushing up on best practice to protect players caught in the crosshairs.
We want to have the same level of care applied to every age group and every ability.
The AFL's Chief Medical Officer among those offering the latest guidelines at a West Beach conference on rest and recovery times and the warning signs to look out for. Advice former Sturt player Tia Hoff wants to see more of. She's still enduring the symptoms of a head knock which ended her playing career at just 18.
It can be a small hit, it could be a massive hit. It's how the person reacts from it.
But trainers from country leagues face extra challenges, with a lack of doctors making it harder to get the right care at crunch time.
Sometimes it can be quite difficult depending on where we're playing, because sometimes we don't have access to the medical help that we need.
Despite the dangers of concussion, health professionals stress they still want South Australians playing sport and enjoying its health benefits.
That 90% of sports-related concussions recover spontaneously when we are careful and we follow the appropriate guidelines.
Tom Johnson, 7 News.
An Adelaide taxi driver is recovering after being assaulted and having his cab stolen in the middle of the city. Police tracked the Camry to the Ampol service station in Paraka. The man had hailed the cab in King William Street before punching the driver and telling him to get out. The alleged offender was arrested in the McDonald's drive-through. A 36-year-old man from the city is facing a string of charges and will face court tomorrow. Despite opposition attacks over the cost of living crisis and immigration detainees, Labor has held on to the federal seat of Dunley in Melbourne. There was a swing against the government in the by-election, but a win was all that Anthony Albanese was after.
Suddenly, everyone seems to be yelling her name. Jodie Bellier, the new member for Dunley.
I'm a mum from Frankston with 2 dogs and a mortgage.
To Anthony Albanese, she's much more than that. A crucial win in the sort of Middle Australia seat he needs to hold, and where voters are looking for more cash support.
Where's the cash? Let's keep the cash going. I always got cash, mate.
An emotional victory in a by-election forced by the death of Labor's Peter Murphy. The result, Labor's primary vote holding up, but its margin cut after preferences 52-48. A 3.7% swing to Liberals' Nathan Conroy.
Dunkley was never a marginal seat, but by hell it's a marginal seat now.
On a night, the candidate's wife revealed she's pregnant with their second child.
To be honest, I don't know when I got the time to do it, but I did it.
Anthony Albanese was highly visible throughout this campaign alongside his candidate. Not so opposition leader Peter Dutton. Yesterday on polling day, he was nowhere to be seen. Again today, missing.
Well, he was down there about 5 days. It wasn't about Peter Dutton, though, was it? It was about the people of Dunley.
Mr Dutton's deputy, Susan Lee, was there, delivering this message on Anthony Albanese's 61st birthday.
Mr Prime Minister, happy birthday. We're just getting started. We are coming after you.
The cost of the Prime Minister being there today, he couldn't watch his South Sydney Rabbitohs playing in Las Vegas.
And kick-off's in 7 minutes. That's how much I care about this.
They lost, unlike Jodie Bellier, hoping her victory is a bridge to the next election.
And Mark Riley is still in Melbourne, where the Prime Minister is hosting Southeast Asian leaders. Riles, China will be on their minds.
Yeah, but not on their lips, Mike. We probably won't hear China mentioned by name, but it will be a constant presence as the ASEAN leaders meet here in Melbourne this week. You know, the combined Southeast Asian community is now a larger trading partner for Australia than Japan or even the US, and it is getting bigger all the time. So there will be plenty of discussions about trade deals among the leaders, but it is regional security that will dominate talks behind closed doors here. And when that is the topic these days, there really is only one name at the front of their minds, and that is China. Mike.
Thanks for that, Mark. Revellers have packed Sydney's Oxford Street with plenty of pride on show for Mardi Gras. But the celebrations were briefly overshadowed when protesters stormed the parade route. Those scenes on a night of already heightened emotion following the deaths of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies.
Dancing away the heartbreak and division as only the queer community can. The 46th annual Mardi Gras was as colourful, loud and energetic as ever. But it was also bittersweet, less than a fortnight on from the murders of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies. The parade officially paid tribute to the pair, Dykes on bikes pausing their ride as a mark of respect. While Qantas, Luke's employer, sported his name on the side of its gay 380, his mother proudly marched alongside it.
I hope that tonight brings a lot of healing for everyone, because I certainly know Luke was just the sweetest person, and he would want everyone to celebrate unity and love and not focus on any discord or broken parts of our community.
Much of that discord had been about police participation. The man accused of the double murder, a serving constable who had previously marched. But officers, led by Chief Commissioner Karen Webb, last night received a hero's welcome. A small destructive minority instead politicised the Premier, Chris Minns' historic moment as the first sitting leader to march, hijacked by pro-Palestinian activists.
With the coloured flares and the banner, I thought it was part of Mardi Gras.
8 people have since been charged with using violence to cause fear.
The differences between large groups in New South Wales are probably further apart than they've ever been.
There's room for 250,000 people here on Oxford Street, and organisers tell me they've reached capacity. It's vital support for the queer community at a time it needs it most.
It means an amazing amount because it feels like we've come a long way.
Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Police are hunting an arsonist after a car fire at Craigmore. The Mitsubishi Ute was torched in a creek off Adams Road just before 7 this morning. Investigators examined the scene. Police say the Triton had been stolen from Riverlea Park overnight. US officials are hopeful there could be a ceasefire in Gaza within days. Israel has signed onto a new proposal just as American aid drops begin over Gaza.
Rolling out the back of a C-130 Hercules aircraft. 38,000 meals on 66 pallets parachuted into Gaza. But those on the ground say it's just not enough. The aid isn't even enough for one family, this Gaza resident says. It's nothing.
The people who were there have not been able to earn a salary since the conflict began. Shops are closed, homes are destroyed, livelihoods shattered.
The airdrops are meant to complement, not replace, ground convoys.
You can pack an awful lot into a military aircraft. You can't replicate the size and scale and scope of a convoy of 20 or 30 trucks.
The operation seen as hypocritical by pro-Palestinian groups in the US as the administration provides aid to Gaza and guns to Israel.
We're dropping some food and we're dropping the bombs and the tanks and the bullets and everything else at the same time.
And tonight, new hope for a ceasefire breakthrough. Israel more or less accepting a new proposal that will put a pause on fighting for up to 6 weeks. That's according to a senior US official. Now Hamas need to sign on. But until then, the bombs and bullets will continue to fly. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
It only came here once, but is still considered SA's most important ship. Long before the replica of the Buffalo appeared at the bay, the original brought Governor Hindmarsh here.
The colony couldn't establish itself properly until he arrived and declared it.
The story behind the Buffalo and where she is now, that's a little later on Flashback. Bruce is here, and please don't tell me there's bad news for Crows supporters.
Unfortunately, Smith, there's some bad news, not only for Crows supporters, but for another AFL player. Riley Thilthorpe's knee injury means he'll miss the start of the season, but how bad is it? Certainly not as bad as St Jimmy Webster's hit on the Roos skipper. If Power Pepper got 4, good luck. And Nathan Lyon takes 10 wickets to clean up the first test. Kiwis haven't beaten us now for 31 years at home. All that and plenty more coming up a little bit later, Smitho.
I thought I asked you not to tell me bad news.
I've got to give you the news.
You
Good
do.
and bad.
You do it very well too. Well, undoing screen damage after the break, how the amount of sleep kids get is further affecting their eyesight, what Adelaide researchers want you to know. Also ahead, Biden trailing behind Trump in the race to the White House, the new poll out of the US. Price cuts on nearly 100 medicines from today who will benefit. And the new approach improving the way at home services are delivered to the elderly. There are fresh concerns tonight that too much screen time and not enough sunshine could be permanently damaging the eyes of children. Local researchers have identified a concerning link between myopia and sleeping problems, which they trace back to too much time on devices.
Tani Morton has myopia. In other words, she's short-sighted. The 13-year-old blames too much screen time.
Sometimes if I have been staring at a screen or other close device for quite a while, my eyes do get a little bit blurry.
But blurry vision is just one side effect. Now Adelaide researchers have found a link between myopia and sleep.
If you have a delayed sleep, the actual culprit is probably the inner body timing or circadian timing, and also the production of melatonin.
And it's a vicious cycle. The lack of sleep makes the myopia worse.
And imagine if you have children who are not getting enough sleep. It has not only implications on how the eye grows, but it also has the implications on their general health and well-being.
What's more troubling is now 1 in 3 children have myopia, a condition that can ultimately lead to blindness if it's not managed appropriately. The best thing parents can do for their children's eye health is make sure they have as little screen time as possible on their devices when they get home from school. The studies also shed light on potential treatments.
We could give melatonin supplements or light therapies in the morning, which could then potentially help with the progression of myopia in these children.
As well as getting away from screens and into some good old-fashioned sunshine. Ashley Kanowski, 7 News.
New polling in the United States puts President Joe Biden well behind rival Donald Trump as the campaign for the country's November election shifts up a gear. The numbers suggest many Americans are willing to tolerate Donald Trump's multiple legal battles.
Queuing at rallies in North Carolina and Virginia.
I love him. I don't care what anybody says about him. I freaking love him.
For ex-president, accused criminal and presidential candidate Donald Trump.
New York Times has us way up over crooked Joe Biden, way, way, way up.
Among America's registered voters, 48% say they'd vote for Trump, 43% Joe Biden. In fact, 8 months from the presidential election, both are unpopular, but President Biden more so. 2/3 of Americans say their country is heading in the wrong direction. The White House sending First Lady Jill Biden to try and turn it around.
Donald Trump is dangerous to women and to our families.
No matter Donald Trump's 91 criminal charges, today Missouri and Idaho joined a so far unanimous list of states backing him as their nominee. This coming week, the peak of the US primaries, Super Tuesday.
We need a leader that knows the difference between good and bad, between right and wrong.
Many expect when Super Tuesday's results are in, Nikki Haley will be out, resigning before the Trump juggernaut overruns her campaign. Then it's Biden v. Trump for 8 months. And already the challenger is talking up his retaking the White House from Joe Biden.
You're fired! You're fired! Get out of here!
In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
The Albanese government has doubled the number of medicines available for a 60-day prescription, adding 94 drugs to the list. Concession card holders are expected to save up to $189 per medicine each year.
And those medicines that are now on the list cover a range of very common, widespread conditions in the community. Type 2 diabetes is probably the most significant.
Forxica, a treatment for chronic heart failure, has been added to the PBS, making it $600 cheaper each year. Well, we've reached the halfway mark of the Adelaide Fringe, but the festival's showing no signs of slowing down. Neither's Gertie, who's at Gluttony tonight. Gert, there's a bumper crowd by the looks of it.
Smitho, thousands are milling about, and why not? Because it is a beautiful, mild evening here in the city to wander around Rymel Park. There are more than 100 different shows to see here in Gluttony alone, with plenty more free activations and some family-friendly activities too. Even if you just wander through to soak up the atmosphere, you won't be disappointed. With 2 weekends to go, there's still time to plan a fun night in the city, and the best news is the weather couldn't be better for it either. We've got some balmy evenings on the way, but I'll have more on that in the full forecast after sport. Smitho.
Thanks, Gertie. Brilliant weather indeed. The fleet of the future up next, when electric trucks are set to hit Australian highways, plus new help for South Australians living with blood cancer. A drug meant for horses now mainstream, and police are worried. And if you thought Kylie Minogue was above a shoey, well, think again. Extra care will soon be available for South Aussies living with an incurable type of blood cancer. The Premier headed to the Bay this morning for the annual walk that raises awareness of myeloma. Almost 200 South Australians were diagnosed with the cancer last year, while there were 95 deaths. State government is providing a grant to recruit 2 new part-time specialist nurses.
It's a very complicated disease. It's a very individual disease.
Having a dedicated nurse who actually understands the unique condition of myeloma and the supports that are required, it just means better care.
Myeloma Australia says the grant will make a real difference in regional areas of the state. Police warn we're being flooded with a record amount of the date, rape and party drug ketamine. The animal sedative that claimed the life of Matthew Perry has triggered a cash boom for international gangs targeting Australia.
A horse tranquiliser that tranquilises people. Ketamine can treat anxiety. It has been used illegally, though, for decades, and now it is mainstream and prolific.
Crime syndicates are actually diversifying, so they're importing illicit substances of any kind to make money.
In 2022, Border Force intercepted 415 kilograms. Last year, more than double, 882. 84 kilos were smuggled inside imported car panels in July. Later that month, a record 145 kilogram haul concealed in liquid cement. Last Friday, 20 kilos in a teenager's luggage.
A large seizure in Victoria actually came from Spain via air cargo. So we've also had couriers come into Australia on aircraft from the UK and also from Europe.
Ketamine is
not safe to be used outside a hospital setting. It is dangerous. It can kill you.
It did kill Friends star Matthew Perry last October. The sedative is addictive and can also cause disorientation, memory loss, depression and seizures.
The ABF knows that it's commonly found as a date rape drug.
Only this week, the Institute of Health and Welfare furnished the federal government with a report detailing drug use in Australia. One headline was the rise of risky alcohol consumption. The other headline was ketamine.
I've asked them to provide me as the Health Minister with some advice about the background trends that explain really what we see in that data.
The business model for drug importers is no different. When demand is high, supply will rise to meet it. Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
At least 5 people have been injured, including a toddler, when a driver crashed her car into a Walmart department store in Michigan. None of those injuries are considered life-threatening. It's believed the driver suffered a medical episode before the Jeep ploughed through the wall and 14 metres into the shop. Police praised workers and shoppers who were first to help the victims. The boom in electric vehicle sales could soon extend to trucks, and they could be on our roads sooner than we think. The Australian electricity giant behind the prototype calls it the fleet of the future.
It looks just like a truck. It drives like one too. But it's the sound, or lack of, that's different. No exhaust, no engine. This is electric.
Ausgrid is a distributor of electricity to homes and businesses. We want to work out how to be a distributor of electricity to vehicles too.
The electricity giant recently hit the road with cars. Trucks and buses are next. A fleet tonight on trial.
We've got a couple of prototypes to test and learn and really figure out what works and what doesn't and try and be at the forefront of the technology. And as we learn from that, then we'll look at what else we can roll out and improve the way we do our operations.
With a split charger setup, a truck can refuel its batteries in an hour, meaning smoko for tradies isn't just about refueling themselves.
They normally have like a 250 kilometre plus range, so it would only be on really busy days where we've got a sort of storm response and we're in and out and all around Sydney. That we might be pushing that.
Ausgrid CEO Mark England calls it the fleet of the future, part of his prediction to reduce carbon emissions, not ruling out nuclear.
We're going to need a lot of different sources of energy in this energy transition, and we've got to keep our minds open, and technology evolves all the time.
Bill Hogan, 7 News.
All aboard tonight on Flashback, the history of the Buffalo long before the replica was built at the Bay. That's coming up next. Plus, how one Parafield Gardens volunteer is sprinkling joy across the Lyle Mac. And calls for an overhaul in the way at-home care is delivered to elderly Australians. She's the volunteer from Parafield Gardens, sprinkling joy across the Lyle McEwen Hospital with her glitter and glue stick in tow. Every week, Samantha Russ rolls her craft cart through the wards, but it's often the yarn she tells rather than threads that make all the difference.
Good morning, how are you? I'm Sam, how are you?
Filling up the cups of others while decorating paper ones.
This is just a simple paper cup. And well, good for me to, spread around a bit of happiness as well.
After major shoulder reconstruction surgery 2 years ago, Sam Rust needed to find new ways to keep busy.
I was doing a craft at home just as a form of rehabilitation, and my sister suggested that I perhaps take the craft into a volunteering situation.
So she got the wheels in motion. Now she spends 3 days a week volunteering at the Lyle McEwen Hospital, taking her colourful show on the road.
I've got a lot of different things to choose from, a lot of sort of pre-made things that won't take a lot of time or thinking, and it's been really welcomed with patients that are the bedridden and too unwell.
And she's not just brightening spirits.
Because I don't have help from home, not much anyway. Yeah, she's helped me out in a few ways, like the washing and like other things as well, like shopping, bring stuff back in when she's coming back.
So I think of Sam as like a little warmth and hope bringer. So she goes into patients' rooms when they're vulnerable, when they're scared, lonely, sick, and sometimes I haven't seen, a friendly face that's not healthcare.
Touching others with her hands-on approach.
So she brought me that in, and she knows I worked at Holden for like a long time, and yeah, She knows I like my forwards as well, so yeah, made my day.
I love being here. Yeah. I really do love being here. Yeah. I love doing my craft at home, but if I can do my craft at home, bring it here, it's a win-win.
Kiara McCabe, 7 News.
It's the ship most associated with the Foundation of South Australia, but it was also used to transport convicts and timber. On Flashback tonight, the story behind the Buffalo and how she met her fate across the ditch.
Heave away, you ruling kings, with a heave away and a haul away. Heave away, you'll hear me sing, I'm bound for South Australia.
This isn't 1836, but 1936, as SA's centenary was commemorated at the Bay.
But it did only visit South Australia once in 1836.
While most of us are familiar with the replica that used to sit by the Pat, the original Buffalo started its life in India.
And it was originally named the Hindustan. It would have carried supplies for the Royal Navy.
History Trust curator Adam Patterson says while the Buffalo wasn't the first ship to bring free settlers to SA, it was considered the most important.
It was the ship that carried Captain John Hindmarsh.
Hindmarsh became our first governor.
This is certainly a different picture to what Governor Hindmarsh would have seen 146 years ago when he anchored in Holdfast Bay. From this point, he walked across to the old gum tree where he proclaimed South Australia a state.
The Buffalo replica was built in the early 80s.
The recreated HMS Buffaloes found a permanent berth near where its predecessor once moored.
It became a place to impress visiting VIPs.
Representatives were treated to a leisurely lunch at Glenelg's Buffalo restaurant.
They made a lot of effort to make it as accurate as possible. One of the decks was raised a little bit to create more headroom for people visiting.
In 1986, a mission was launched to find the original Buffalo, which sank in a storm in New Zealand in 1840.
Virtually no excavation work has been done on the wreck since the Buffalo went down more than 140 years ago, so the 5 divers weren't sure what to expect in Mercury Bay.
Well, it was very successful, and what we set out to do was locate the wreck site, and we did that in a very short time, and then we excavated a couple of sections across the wreck site to ascertain what was there.
Divers went down again just a few years ago to see what sort of shape it's in now.
The wreck is just 200 metres offshore, or as little as 50 metres at low tide, and it's really shallow, just 2 or 3 metres beneath the surface.
It's scoured out on the inside as well as around the outside, so you're looking almost down to the keel.
Meantime, back at the Pat, her namesake had been living on borrowed time.
Painters abandoned ship last week when they found the hull rotten. Richard Finlayson has advised the council it's a shipwreck.
In the future, I can't guarantee the safety. I can't continue to plough money into it.
Plans for a major makeover in 2015 never went anywhere, and she was left to languish until her fate was sealed in 2019.
An icon of the bay, dead in the water.
Sad to see it go. I would have liked to have seen it be revamped, actually.
Sad to see it demolished, but I guess it's got to the point of no return.
The council says the site will be given an exciting new look.
Maybe in time for our bicentenary.
Well, she's already an icon to us. Now it's official. Kylie Minogue has been honoured at the Brit Awards with the Global Icon accolade, recognising her nearly 40-year music career.
It might not even really sink until later, when it falls to pieces crying and wake up tomorrow going, oh my God, that happened.
It sure did. And if you thought the pop princess was above doing a celebration shoey, well, think again.
She doesn't age, does she? Just like you, Smitho.
Oh, thanks, Bruce. And you only drink out of shoes these days, so
that's how we go.
Very significant.
Yeah.
Hey, Bruce, one crow will be missing for the start of the season.
Smitho, the most frustrating thing is you do all the pre-season, all the heat, all the work, and you miss the first round. Unfortunately for one crow, that's going to happen. Coming up after the break, we'll find out how bad Riley Thilthorpe's knee injury is, and hear from Coach Matthew Nix while there's a different headache for Ken Hinkley down at Alberton. The GOAT spins Australia to another Test win, the Kiwis stretching their winless home drought, and another team and another strained relationship. Daniel Ricciardo back into Formula One with a bang.
Welcome back, and a huge blow for the Adelaide Crows with forward Riley Thilthorpe to miss the start of the season with a knee injury. Robbie Cornthwaite joins us now. Robbie, Thilthorpe's out indefinitely.
But he's torn the meniscus in his left knee and will be sent to see a specialist with no timeline on his return. It seemed a minor incident and the club was hopeful he'd only jarred his knee, but the news was worse than what they were expecting. Instead, they're going to be missing one of their most important players for the start of the season. 7 News caught up with Thilthorpe today, and despite the setback, he's still optimistic about the year ahead after a pre-season where he showed plenty of promise.
Yeah, it's been a good pre-season. Pretty excited for the season to start. Hopefully I can play my role for the team and hopefully get a few wins.
Thilthorpe's injury, the only blemish on what's been a flawless pre-season. The club has high expectations in 2024 after several years of rebuilding under Matthew Nicks.
This is why it's been such a pleasing off-season for us. We've got some areas we've got to get better at, and we said that out last year. We didn't get what we wanted, so we need to be better. Our guys have done everything that we've asked of them.
Adelaide was plus 23 in clearances in the 67-point win, with winning the ball at the source a key focus of the pre-season. Sam Berry showed his game's gone to another level, while Jake Saligo proved his fitness after recently returning from an ankle injury.
Those guys now are starting to add a little bit more depth and diversity to our midfield, so that's an area that we know we need assistance in. Laddie and Dorse do a great job, and Matty, but we need some assistance around that area.
Isaac Rankin's move to the midfield's been seamless.
He's unique in the way he plays footy. There's things he does that a lot of us can't. So we've really enjoyed giving him that freedom this year.
Adelaide still look a little vulnerable in defence. Prize pick Dan Curtin looks certain to start life as a Crow in the sandful, but Mark Keane will be available for round 1 against the Suns in 13 days' time.
So we'll be able to freshen up out of this hit out and make sure we're ready to go, in a week and a half, 2 weeks' time.
Robbie Cornthwaite, 7 News.
And Port Adelaide's impressive pre-season performances have created more questions than answers for Ken Hinkley ahead of round 1, with who gets the nod on the wing turning into a battle of the bees, with Burgoyne, Bergman and Boak all making their case.
There's still a decision to be made around the wings or around the outside part of our midfield still, because we think Jace Burgoyne's had a great pre-season. Miles, as you said, come back up. Travis was really good tonight.
Mish Georgiadis and Josh Sin were both rested on Friday night, but are sure to be in the mix for Port's round 1 clash with West Coast. St Kilda defender Jimmy Webster looks set to miss the start of the AFL season for this brutal bump on Kangaroos captain Jai Simpkin in the pre-season game at Moorabbin. In a tight contest, North's Callum Coleman-Jones impressed for the young Kangaroos.
It's going to bounce through from the centre circle. Really celebrate in the middle of the ground.
The AFL season begins on Thursday night with the Swans hosting the Demons. Nathan Lyon now has more 5-wicket hauls in Test cricket than Dennis Lilly. His 6 for 65 and 10 for the match led Australia to a 172-run win over New Zealand in Wellington. From 3 for 126, Lyon removed Ravindra, Blundell and Phillips in the space of 10 minutes early on day 4 of the first Test.
And on the pads and gone.
I would absolutely love him. He's playing until 2027. And I don't think there's much that's going to get in his way. I already told him the day he retires, I'm definitely giving up the captaincy.
Cummins denies Marnus Labuschagne is under pressure for Friday's second Test, despite averaging just 22 for the summer.
Absolutely not. We're very clear that these 6 guys are the 6 best batters in Australia.
Meanwhile, Cameron Green's match-winning 174 not out has shown his intent to dominate at number 4. Adelaide United's season remains on life support going down to ladder leaders Wellington Phoenix. The Reds will need to win all of their remaining 7 games to have any hope of making the finals.
Adelaide United's season looks all but over. Today's 3-2 loss to Wellington stretching its winless run to 6. The Reds had 23 shots but just 6 on target. No such problem for the Phoenix. Ben Old's opener was initially flagged offside before VAR intervened. Adelaide rallied after the break. Luka Jovanovic executed a penalty with precision in the absence of Zach Clough.
Paulson might have got a touch, but it didn't matter, and Jovanovic celebrates.
A quadruple substitution by the Knicks had immediate impact. Within 44 seconds, Oscar Van Hatten put the home side ahead before Old added his second.
Wharton, back now to Ben Old!
Hiroshi Ibusuki pegged one back, but it was too little too late. Adelaide hosts arch-rival Melbourne on Saturday night. Emily Beaton, 7 News.
And it was showtime in Las Vegas for Rugby League, playing 2 season openers at Allegiant Stadium, which hosted the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. In Game 1, the Seagulls claimed a history-making 12-point win over the Rabbitohs.
With Luke Brooks going through, and Luke Brooks scoring. A magical debut for Luke Brooks.
In the second match, the Roosters beat the Broncos 20-10. Daniel Ricciardo's relationship with his F1 teammate Yuki Tsunoda is already strained. Livid at being ordered to let the Aussie pass in the season-opening Bahrain GP, he then almost ran him off the road on the cool-down lap.
What? I'll save it. Helmet. For sure a bit disappointed in that, but as far as I was aware, the team made the call, and then it's obviously up to Yuki.
Ricciardo came 13th, 5 spots behind Oscar Piastri. World champ Max Verstappen picked up where he left off last year, leading home a Red Bull 1-2 with Sergio Perez. But that's our sport. Given the results that Mad Max does basically win every race, I'm happy with that stuff for Daniel Ricciardo. Makes it interesting, at least, the warm-down lap.
We love Ricardo, don't we? Thanks, Bruce. Well, the federal government is being urged to overhaul the way at-home care is delivered to elderly Australians as politicians grapple with twin crises in aged care and housing. Experts say the solution is staring them right in the face.
It's no secret Australia is ageing fast.
Within the next 2 decades, there'll be a 70% increase in the number of people aged over 75.
That's almost 3.5 million people who will be entering retirement by 2040.
Demand is growing, it's through the roof. We've got a housing and healthcare solution hiding in plain sight.
And that's where the idea of a shared care model comes from. Services provided to retirement village residents directly instead of through external companies.
So we have the infrastructure, the staff and the services.
About 1 million Australians are relying on some form of home care right now, whether it's help with their personal hygiene, running errands or transport. It greatly improves their quality of life and delays entry into aged care, but only if they can get in. They can be stuck on a wait list for up to 12 months.
And then even when they are getting home care, they're losing about a third of it to administration fees and red tape.
Ryman Healthcare amongst providers who believe the future of aged care is in the share care model. The overhaul would see the government save $100 million, while it would make home care 20% more accessible for Australian retirees.
So it's a saving for taxpayers, it's a better way for operators, and it's also, most importantly, a much better way for customers.
Zoe Martin, 7 News.
Gertie will join us again after the break with a look at the weather forecast.
It'll be cool in the city overnight, but then a burst of heat's on the way. I'll have your 7-day forecast live from Gluttony.
For Adelaide's latest news and more, tune in to Will Goodings and David Pemberthy on 5AA Breakfast tomorrow morning.
Hey Australia, this week on Sunrise, we're giving away 2.5 million Qantas points.
Let's do the maths. That's enough for 7 return flights between Sydney and LA or 8 return trips between Melbourne and London.
Be watching to win Monday.
Also, earn an extra 7 days of leave per year.
They're called offset days. We'll show you how it works.
And Sunrise lends a helping hand.
Hello.
It's Matt and Nat from Sunrise.
The surprise house call that changes everything.
I can say thank you very, very much.
Start with Sunrise.
Time for the weather now. Gertie joins us again from Rymel Park. And Gert, a cool night's on the way.
Smitho, with clear skies overhead, there's nothing to trap in today's heat, so it will be a bit of a fresh start to the day tomorrow. In the city today, our top was 26.6 degrees in the end, a little bit warmer than expected. Right now, it's just 21 here in the city. It was a dry and sunny day for most, but a slow, broad-moving trough did trigger some isolated showers and thunderstorms over parts of the far north, and there was a bit of cloud that built up over coastal areas too. It reached 24 degrees in Murray Bridge and Narracourt. A trough could see some thunderstorms develop over southwest WA, a fast-moving cold front's triggering some chilly conditions in Tassie, while a reach of high pressures driving the warm weather here. Interstate, partly cloudy and 24 for Sydney, showers and 30 for Brisbane, 32 with a storm possible for Darwin, cloudy and 19 for Hobart. Back home, a dry day for most. Isolated showers and thunderstorms are possible in the far west, more frequent near the western border. 37's the top for Marie and Cooper-Pedy, mostly sunny and 33 for Ceduna. Looking a little breezy along the coast in the afternoon. A top of 26 is on the way for Port Lincoln, 31 for Whyalla, 34 for Port Augusta and Port Pirie, 30 for Renmark, 32 for Kadina, 25 for Edithburgh, 23 for Victor, 26 for Mount Gambier. A flood warning for the inland rivers is still current, with heatwave conditions impacting parts of the far north. In the city, down to 13 degrees overnight, 30's the forecast top. On metro waters, east to southeasterly winds reaching 20 knots, then tending south to southwesterly, then east to southeasterly. Looking ahead, sunny and 33 Tuesday, partly cloudy and 30 Wednesday, 32 Thursday, 34 Friday, Saturday now hitting a top of 37 degrees, partly cloudy and 33 on Sunday. Bring on a hot long weekend, Smitho. It's going to be a very big few days here in the city.
Sure will. Thanks for that, Gertie. That's all the news for now. I'll have updates through the evening from all the Adelaide 7 team. For now, though, it's good night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus and with 7news.com.au. You'll know the news now.